hello out there, Caniac Nation. Thanks for joining us for session, what is this, 73? Yes, of CaniacSessions. I'm Griff.
I'm AB.
I'm Brandyn.
And sorry for the weird, awkward stare between the starting soon and the intro video. So I've got my nice little stormy background here. I don't know if y'all can see it, but I think that's making the media lag. So I think that's why it didn't start. But let me know in the chat if I start freezing or getting whatever, and I'll remove this stupid background. I just thought it was funny. So anyway, yeah. So Friday night, post trade deadline. Trade deadline was 4.5 hours ago, 3:00 Eastern time. We're beyond it. Some things happened. Everybody knows that by now. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to kind of chew on it a little bit and quickly dry up our tears and move on. I hope. So how we doing, fellas?
Fine. I mean, sucked to see.
Yeah, it did.
When I was doing baseball announcing today, in between innings, I was just checking my phone, just hoping something else would happen. But, we got a good player, promising player, and we got some draft capital, and we got Janikowski as well. So, sucks, but
not to be confused with Sebastian Janikowski. It's Jankowski, not the kicker, the hockey player. Sorry, I had to. Brandyn, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm just still stuffed up. This time of year and me do not get along.
Yeah.
So a few more days and I think I'll be fine. But at least my face is not completely red.
We know your horse from screaming into your pillow about 3:00 today.
Oh no, I couldn't do that. I was at work. I was at the point where I'd kind of accepted it, considering some of the stuff that started coming out late last night and early this morning. Also, yesterday, Nick Castellanos hit a home run, so I knew something bad was about to happen.
I said that to you.
Yeah, when you sent me that, I was like, yeah, we're cooked.
We're screwed.
Every time Nick Castellanos hits a home run, something bad happens. And I already hate the Phillies as it is, so I don't like for him to hit home runs anyway.
Yeah. So it's been a crazy, I guess, not quite 24 hours, but well, I mean, I guess 24 hours since the game last night. Crazy game last night, right? It was, I mean, to be honest, we had no business winning that game, but we did. The way they played, I thought was, I mean, there was good stretches, but for the most part, Kochetkov stole that game last night with his play. And then, man, Jarvis was just gifted a beauty right there with 18 seconds to go with a shattered stick. I mean, it trickles right to him and he buries it. Beautiful. Yeah, I was going nuts. And that was right after the Taylor Hall's overturned goal. And yeah, so glad we got that win. But then anyway, about midnight last night, some of you, were already in bed. I was not for some reason. I should have been, but I wasn't. And I saw the tweet come across that, things were progressing with Dallas and Carolina regarding Mikko Rantanen. And, we've been talking about this, guys. We've been talking about this for a long time, I feel like. And he's only been here 6 weeks, but I feel like it's been, forever just hoping that he would sign and trying to figure out, like, when he was going to start playing well. And then, the Four Nations and, it's coming. And his underlying numbers are good and this and that and whatever. But it just never happened. He never would gain any traction. And, you just felt like he didn't want to be here. And turns out that's exactly the case. Whatever that reason is up for discussion. But, he ultimately signs with the Dallas Stars in a sign and trade to Dallas. The return for Carolina is 21-year-old restricted free agent Logan Stankoven. 2 first-round picks, one in the upcoming 2026 draft and one in, I believe it was a 2028 first round pick.
Logan's 22.
22. Okay, he must have just turned 22 then. 22 years old then. 2 first round picks, I believe a 26 and a 28. And then also 2 third round picks, and I believe also they're a 26 and a 28.
I'll tell you in 2 seconds.
I believe that's what I saw. There was a lot of stuff coming across the phone today, so I don't know.
On Puckpedia.
But anyway, that was the return. We sat around for about, I think it came out at about 1:30. Is when we found out what the details were of the return. Thought that maybe there would be some time that Eric Tulsky could flip, some of those picks somewhere else for another player. Ultimately, that didn't happen. He said in his press conference that, he just kind of ran out of time waiting on the, because they didn't have the cap space to make a move until Rantanen was officially traded. Now, whether or not that's true or an excuse, I don't know, but that's what he said. Where'd AB go?
I don't know. His internet's always letting him down.
Always happens. Anyway, so yeah, that was the trade, and just to be frank, it sucks. Like whenever this came out last night at about midnight, you're like, oh man, okay, well, what we start thinking about returns from Dallas. They've got a pretty deep team, right? Especially amongst their forwards. You start thinking about some roster players that they have that could be coming back. I was really hoping for Wyatt Johnston, but
me too.
But if you look at that, the other side, if it was the other way around, like when Colorado traded us Mikko Rantanen. Now, obviously, they traded us Rantanen, and he without a contract. But Natchez was part of that return. But we kind of thought that, we knew Natchez wasn't going to hang around here. He wanted to be moving in the summer. It didn't happen. But if it was the same situation but flopped, I wouldn't want to see Seth Jarvis go back in a return. And that's essentially kind of what this is. Now, Seth Jarvis is more of an established player at this point. But if you just think about it, this time last year, would you want to see Seth Jarvis go back in a similar trade if we were Dallas? I don't think so. Not like right before his extension, all that. So I can understand, Wyatt Johnston not coming back, but I was hoping. So there's AB.
Just disappeared like Mikko did. My bad.
Yeah, but at least we knew why you left.
Wait, did you do that on purpose so you could drop the joke?
No. It literally, the computer literally said like restart. We ran into a problem. So, and that's what we did today. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we were just talking about the return, how we were hoping it would be Wyatt Johnston and it wasn't, and how if it was the other way around, similar circumstances, we wouldn't want to see Jarvis go back the other way if it was, So I can understand why, but you were hoping.
Mm-hmm.
But Logan Stankoven, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, comes back. Ever since this trade, once we found out he was coming back, I've watched some highlights. I've looked at his stats, kind of, looked at his player card and all that stuff. I'm kind of excited. Like I've worked myself up into a little bit of excitement around him for his future. But before we talk about him and talk about, the outlook of the team and whatnot, I'll open it up to you guys. What are your, how do you feel about this whole situation? Just kind of reflecting back on the last 6 weeks, since we acquired Mikko Rantanen, because we got him. Remember that night we got on that stream and we were all just giddy, like the highest of highs. and at that night, was it like January 26th or something?
24th, yeah.
24th.
Mm-hmm.
That night, we just thought we were set. And then, 6 weeks later of like mid, And here we are, and he's traded again, which we discussed. I mean, we discussed that this could be a possibility, which was really the reason why they brought him in early. But to be honest, I really never thought it would happen. But here we are. So I'll open it up to you guys, your thoughts, your feelings, your takeaways, whatever. Go for it.
Yeah. Obviously, you bring in a guy like Rantanen to be your number one player, and it was a shock to him. And I think we should have had a deal in place, but again, Rantanen didn't know, and his play reflected that he was still in shock and didn't know what he was going to do. It sucks to see him go to Dallas because the rumor was he wanted 14. He didn't get it. Carolina offered him 13.5. He didn't want it. And now he goes to Dallas and he has the 8-year, $12 million. I did find this interesting. Dallas does not have state income tax. Same as Florida.
That's correct.
And Tennessee.
Well, nobody's going to go there.
Brady Shea did. That worked out real well.
Stamkos.
But Stankoven is a nice addition. He's a young guy. He's a heavy forecheck, kind of like Jarvis. I'm not saying I'm comparing him to Jarvis. His finishing ability is very, very bad. And he's a smaller guy. He's like 5'8", I think, something like that.
Hold on. Let's save this for a little bit. I want to hear your how did you feel of the last 6 weeks about acquiring Mikko Rantanen, the 6 weeks that he was here, and then ultimately trading him today? Like, I mean, just the high and the low.
I felt pretty confident. I felt like a deal was going to get done. And there were rumors like we were one of the teams that he was interested in. And it just didn't work out. And it sucks because a player like that doesn't come very often. And I think his mind was not focused on Canes hockey, and he just couldn't adapt, and he wanted to be somewhere else. At the end of the day, it sucks. But it's a business, and I really thought something was going to get done. Brandyn and I went to the eye, and I refused to touch the Rantanen jersey because I didn't want it to be bad luck. I really thought he was going to be here, and it's unfortunate. It's frustrating. It's upsetting. But again, at the end of the day, it is what it is. And for the people calling us the laughing stock right now, I get where they're coming from, but that is not true at all. So,
yeah, we're going to talk about that too. I got that. Brandyn, what about you, buddy?
While I am disappointed, y'all were there when I made my initial contract estimation for him. Why I thought that he was going to stay in Carolina, and why he had all the incentives to stay in Carolina, and why it looked like that. I don't want to say it was an inevitability, but at the time I thought it was more than likely. I'm disappointed in that regard because this team has been waiting on a guy like that for years. We have a lot of great players on this team who have very complete games, but having that game-breaking offensive weapon, the closest thing we've had to that in this era is Gensel. I feel really bad for a lot of the fans. I know a lot of them are disappointed, myself included. But at the same time, I think everyone should, well, I'm not going to tell what they should feel. I'll just tell you what I think. What I noticed from our fans was that we offered him a lot of grace, a lot of patience to deal with the shock of being traded, to adapt to the new system, adapt to the new city, get here, get settled in. And even with his performance being a little underwhelming, not many people were upset with the idea of paying him $13 million to $14 million a season.
Yeah.
But then he does this, and all the shock and all the sadness that he had about being moved out of Colorado that I think we as a fan base, for the most part, were very patient with, He's on the phone 5 minutes later with TSN telling them how excited he is to go to Dallas. Additionally, when it comes to his adaptation to the system, Dallas plays a pretty similar game, so that doesn't make much sense to me either. Time will tell. But I feel bad for the fans because this has got to be a disappointment to them. But there are significantly worse outcomes we could have had. We could have kept the guy. He could have walked for nothing and not tried for the rest of the season. And we could have not got, albeit a slightly underwhelming one in my return, because I, like you, wanted Wyatt Johnston. At least we got a relatively decent return with other assets that we can use later. But I know we'll go into that more later. But more than anything, like, it was nice to have the 5 minutes of hope that we had a guy like that. But this team's built on depth. It's built on culture. It's built on scoring by committee. If we don't have a guy like Rantanen, we have other ways to solve that problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with everything you just said, but something I want to add to that, I feel bad for Eric Tulsky.
Yeah.
A lot of people, the media, a lot of fans, and if you're one of those fans, I just want you to, like, hear me out right here. Give the back off the guy. Like, I wish the media would as well. Like, he's a rookie GM, and I give him all the credit in the world. You know, now again, a lot of the things behind the scenes in this organization are, you know, the owner's got his hands in the pot. Like, I get it, which is his right, and it's fine. And for the most part, you know, they do a good job of the rule by committee, you know, that happens here or whatever. I'm not complaining yet, but, you know, he goes out, he makes this trade. It's one of the biggest trades in recent memory. He's a rookie GM, and he's riding the high. He's doing his media tour. He's talking to every news outlet, every major podcast, you know, that covers the NHL, and people are just, Eric Tulsky's a genius. He pulled this off. He's great. He's wonderful. And then you fast forward 6 weeks later, everybody's dragging him through the mud. You shouldn't have done this. The Carolina Hurricanes organization is a joke. They should be embarrassed. They set themselves back years. Blah, blah, blah. These are the same people that were praising him 6 weeks ago, even without the extension. And that, you know, like, that two-faced crap's got to stop. Look, I'm thankful that we have leadership in this organization that will take a risk like that, because if it would have worked, and he said this in his press conference as well, if it would have worked, genius. I mean, just setting up this organization, what a core that would have been. And look, he took a swing and he missed ultimately. But there's still a chance, and we're going to talk about this too at the end. There's still a chance to make a splash and acquire a game breaker in the free agency. There's some big names as of right now until they re-sign. There's some big names out there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm not buying the narrative that nobody wants to play here. I said this on X earlier. There's only so much money available in the NHL, right? Every team has a salary cap. And there's only a few teams that have enough money to pay a superstar their market value. The Marners of the world, the Rantanens of the world, these of course, Rantanen's off the market now, obviously, but Marner is going to be looking for a $12 to $13 million contract. How many teams can really give him an 8 or a 7-year deal with a $12.5 million AAV? There's only like 4 or 5 out there right now that could really, really do it without making moves to set themselves up to be able to do it.
And we're the only ones that are really a contender in that regard too.
Correct.
That's right. That's not named Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to play in Winnipeg. So.
Oh boy.
I'm just saying, like, anyway, that's my little rant. I feel bad for Eric Tulsky. I'm choosing to take the view that, like, look, I'm proud of the dude, man. It sucks that it didn't work out.
Mm.
But 99% of the media and the fans and the other fan bases or whatever were singing his praises 6 weeks ago. And because a hockey player, a dude, decided that he didn't want to live in Raleigh for whatever reason, you can speculate all you want, but we've been saying it all along. It wasn't about the money because we offered him more than Dallas. They couldn't go above that $12 million annual value. They planted their foot down and they didn't budge. He had to come down to them. So, look, whatever that reason is, he didn't want to be in Raleigh. That's fine. But don't tell me it was the money, because it wasn't. Don't tell me it's the system. It's the coaching, because it's not, because he took an 8-year contract to the closest team that runs a system as close to Carolina as how am I trying to say this here? He chose to go.
Them.
There you go. Thank you. He chose to go to the team that closely resembles us, the closest to it. Right? He didn't go to a high-powered offense. Dallas has trouble scoring for stretches of the season too, every year. Right? You know, they're a defense first, team as well. A lot of offense driven from the blue line. Heiskanen, Thomas Harley. I don't know. Anyway,
I would like to add one thing to what you're saying in regards to it wasn't the system. It's weird to me that people are blaming Rod for this. He didn't have anything to do with any of these decisions that were made. I don't know how people are drawing that conclusion. Like, I understand some of the criticisms of Rod. I've had a few myself, as we know. But this is just one of those things where I'm like, you cannot blame him at all. He had zero input on how this went down.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, but you know what? Look, as far as the Carolina Hurricanes fan base, organization, I'm proud of us. I'm proud of most of us. Some of y'all out there on X, I would like to throat punch, but I'm not going to name names, but anyway, all I have seen from the majority of this fan base is we embrace the guy. We cheered for the guy. We were, like you said, Brandon, we were patient. And I understand, like, the whole situation about, I was shocked to leave Colorado. And, if it's anybody's fault, it's his agent. That guy freaking fumbled like the ball big time. God. You could have signed in Colorado and not had to go through the shock for 12.6. And he got even less in Dallas. He could have got even more here. I mean, I get the whole state tax thing, but, at the end of the day, it's not 9 digits. It's $96 million over 8 years.
So actually, one more thing in regards to the state tax. You remember when I did the estimation of 13.75 AAV? Yeah. That was accounting for that. I actually did the math on that. That's why I came to the conclusion of that, because I was like, if he signed in either one of the Florida teams, or if he signed for, I even looked at the brackets and everything. If he signed with either one of the Florida teams, Nashville or Dallas, and I believe Seattle, I believe Washington State does not have state income tax either.
They don't.
Yeah, see, that's why I was like, I actually did the math on that, and that's why I'm like, 13.75 gives him as much take-home pay, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, give or take a few grand, not much when you're talking about that kind of a paycheck. That was to account for if he played somewhere with no state income tax.
Yeah, and as a sidebar, the NHL needs to address this. They need to, I believe, allocate additional cap space for teams that play in high tax markets. And as much as I hate to say what I'm about to say, cities like New York City that have, you've got the 10% state tax plus an additional city tax on top of that. You're looking at, by the time you pay federal, state, and city taxes, you're looking at like 49% of your paycheck gone. So cities like that, Carolinas doesn't have a high state tax, like 4.25%. but the NHL needs to address, and Canada pays even more. You know,
there was someone in Montreal, I can't remember who it was, that was talking about that signed an ELC or something, and he said he only gets about $300,000 a season between taxes, cost of living, paying his agent, which is another thing to consider here with the agents.
Commissions, right? Commissions.
Yeah, it's like they get a pretty big chunk, which is why an agent like Mikko, Rantanen, or anybody else's agent for that matter, would push really hard to get him more money because he makes more money. To go back to really have a quick throwback here, the Aho offer sheet situation, he did an interview one time after he did a promotion somewhere, and I believe it was back in his home country of Finland, where he said he didn't even know that was happening.
Yeah.
So it's like they were doing that so that they could make more money. He actually fired that guy and got a different agent after the fact. But it's maybe there's something the NHL can address with that too, about how the agents make their money, because I don't think it should automatically be a percentage of what the player makes, because then you end up with situations like this. You end up with situations like, to a lesser degree, the Gensel one. There's a factor at play there.
Yeah. I want to get to a lot of these comments over here. I see you guys talking amongst yourselves, and I'm sorry we haven't addressed it here. Just a lot to get out. But just to kind of wrap this up here, and AB, I'll give you a chance to fill it, to talk about whatever it is still in your mind before we move on. But I will say, I lost a lot of respect for the Mikko Rantanen, the person. AB left again.
No, I'm still here. My camera's not working very well. I don't know what happened.
Oh man. Anyway, I lost a lot of respect for Mikko Rantanen, the person. I'm not saying that he had to sign here. That's his choice decision. If he wants to go to Dallas, go to Dallas, dude. If you want to go to LA, wherever, I don't care. You do what you want to do. However, the way he carried himself while he was a member of this organization was pathetic. And I know a lot of the Colorado fans came at me. I posted one night. AB's back here. Hold on.
I'm already upset. I'm going to throw my computer across the room.
Well, now don't do it. Well, hey, okay, if you do, I did see that Lenovo is offering like a 15% discount on new laptops through the Canes organization. So you might want to take advantage of that.
All right, I'll be right back. No, I'm just
But where was I going with this?
Somewhere.
Anyway,
Stormy.
Thanks for entering. Yeah. Oh, over here. He's over here. I'm forget I'm mirrored here, but I don't know where I was. I forgot where I lost my train of thought. Thanks, AB. But no, I lost a lot of respect for the guy. Like, if you want to go sign somewhere, wherever that is, that's your right. You're a UFA. You've earned your right to go wherever you want. Sign what contract you want. But when you remember this organization, you need to act like a professional. And maybe he did in front of the media and this and that or whatever, but that didn't translate to the ice. Okay. We gave him the benefit of the doubt with the Four Nations, the flu that went through the room, all that stuff. But even, last night, he just looked I remember now. Colorado fans were coming at me saying, "Oh, well, that's just Mikko. He just always looks like that. He always looks disengaged and this and that or whatever." And maybe that's the case, but look, the guy that played in Raleigh and on this team did not look like the guy that played in Colorado. And I don't buy the whole, he was riding the coattails of McCarr and McKinnon. I don't buy that. Like,
that question will be answered very, very soon.
It will. We'll find out in Dallas.
We played them again this year, don't we?
Real quick.
No.
Let me put my 2
No,
cents
we don't.
in.
Yeah, we already played them twice, didn't we?
Yeah, beat them. We swept them both. All right. Yeah, go ahead, AB.
I will say this, Griff, like you touched on, Mikko Rantanen, he is a blank. I don't know if he was
What's
just
a blank,
had his
AB?
head. Nothing. I can't say it on here. Family friendly.
No, go for it. Air it out. Let's go.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Mikko Rantanen is a pussy.
absolutely.
And I'm going to, and yeah, you have to, this is a business. You have to conduct yourself in the right way. And he lost a lot of respect for me because, okay, I get you're shocked, but you still have to do your job. Like, it's so unprofessional. Like, yes, he's a sought after player. He's a very good player. But honestly, Brandon, when we were watching the games, his just defense wasn't there. I mean, he would just stop. And it reminded me a little bit of Ovechkin, just kind of just sitting there and then waiting to go into the offensive zone. But it was so much disrespect on this franchise and the type of human being that he is. I'm glad he can do well in Dallas. I wish him all the best, but he can lick a dog turd. He is just
well. See, like when we're talking about
no, excuse me. No,
go ahead. Go ahead. It lagged. I'm sorry.
I mean, I just don't know. You know, I'm glad that this locker room cancer is out of here. So the real guys that care. Well, he acted like one.
Well, maybe.
I'm glad that he's out of there because they're actual players that care about this franchise and care about the city and so on and so forth. And that guy's not one of them. And it makes me so frustrated. And I cannot wait for him to go to the Lenovo Center.
Well,
because it is going to be bad.
Well, the whole thing about it is I won't go as far as calling him locker room cancer. What I will say is that if there was more to it, it will come out in due time, kind of like what happened with Eric Holla.
Yeah.
And that eventually, like, we found out what the ins and outs of that actually was. Nothing stays secret anymore. One other thing that I will add, excuse me 1 second. One other thing that I will add to that is that if you guys go ahead, I need a second. I'll be right back.
No, you're good.
Yeah. So what I'll add to that is just look. A lot of the guys in the room really tried hard to make this work. You know, you could hear Aho's emotion last night in his, talking to the media after the game. You could just hear it in his voice. Like he really, really wanted this to work.
Mm-hmm.
His fellow countryman, a guy that, he's known his whole life, from the time they were kids.
Even his dad said something about it.
Yeah. It just sucks, man. Like it just sucks all around. And in a way, I'm relieved that it's over.
Yeah.
Because, hindsight, you look back on the last 6 weeks, if it was a failure.
Mm-hmm.
It just was. And, we could speculate on the reasons and whatnot, but, just an absolute unprofessional attitude, in my opinion. I don't care if he looks like that all the time. No, come in here and play your freaking game. Like that's what we are paying you to do. But anyway, I want to move on here.
Real quick, let me add something really quick, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
That picture of him smiling like during the storm surge, I just am like, yeah, he's like, get me out of here. And I'll just, and then I'm done.
Yeah. Do you want to finish your thought, Brandon?
Here, I'll be right back.
All right. What happened? There you are. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry. I just had to take a second because this is the right now, but
you're good.
The thought that I had, I just kind of forgot. If I remember it at some point, I'll bring it up. I should have wrote it down, but my brain's mush today, so
no worries. I want to get some of these comments here. J-Dub. First, BTS must be sleeping.
Yeah, because normally he's the first one in here, far and away before everybody.
J-Dub says shitty for this year, but man, the future is bright. Absolutely. And we are going to talk about that. B, is back. B says, I remember Tulsky said the only reason why Rantanen wouldn't stay is because he didn't want to be here. That's it.
That actually reminds me of what I was going to say. The real reasons why I think Rantanen didn't stay, the stuff I wrote in the group chat, I'm going to keep that to myself because I would never get away with saying it unfiltered. If I die before you and AB, though, you have my full and complete permission
I
to
agree
tell
with
the world what I said. Yeah, it's just, I'm not going to say that publicly because I'll never get away with it, but it's pretty apparent. And then my thoughts on that, additionally, I will keep to myself. But if I die, feel free, use it.
Okay. Don't die, though.
I'm trying not to, but it definitely feels like I am right now.
That's fair.
Sorry about that. I had to use a restroom and get some water.
Weak bladder.
Sorry.
All right, these comments here. Casey says, dope opening, boys. Thanks, Casey. Are you talking about, are you being sarcastic, Casey? Because I screwed up the, he is. Okay. Well, I got Stormy over my shoulder here, so it's fine. Caleb says, oh man, I have thoughts. He must be talking about my background. Well, Caleb, think all you want to, because I'm chilling with Stormy tonight. J-Man, he says, I got a good feeling Stankoven is going to be a beaut for this squad. J-Man, I concur.
I agree.
Casey again says, we finally got those bounces RBA has been talking about. Last night, yes, we got 3 of those bounces. Rod Brendan was talking about.
I was going to say, I think we've hit our bounce quota for the month. We're going to struggle to score for the rest of March. We got all 3 of them in one game.
Absolutely.
Now, the one that Roslovic initially scored before they called it back, I knew that was offside before he even put the puck in the net. I was like, yeah, that's coming back.
Well, Taylor Hall scored it.
Or I'm sorry, Taylor Hall. Yeah. Roslovic was offside. No, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's coming back. There's no.
Yeah. But that one that Burns scored was like a pinball. It like bounced off like a leg, a stick, and in. If it wouldn't have hit something, it wasn't even on net. But anyway, yeah, we got the bounces. Like, yeah, and unfortunately, like that's the rest of the bounces we're going to get for the rest of the year.
Especially
Pops,
with him.
What's up, Pops? I'm glad you're not driving tonight. Little sidebar here. Pops is officially retired.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he is. He's retired.
Congratulations. Now you can sleep all day and drink.
He said, imagine how the Avs feel that he signed in the same division on a contract similar to their offer. Canes aren't the only ones to get chumped by this dude. Right. That's why I say his agent really screwed the pooch on this one.
Who was his agent?
I'll tell you in 2 seconds.
The same guy that the same guy that has
is his last name Scott?
Andy Scott.
Yeah, Andy Scott.
That's who it is.
Because I've got the trade pulled up on Puckpedia here. But that does, Pops brings up a pretty good thing there to discuss. When Colorado apparently knew that Mikko was willing to take a pay cut, and then he ends up signing in the same division for a slightly less amount of money that's basically almost exactly the same as what he would have got in Colorado. Is there something that Colorado knew that we didn't, and that's why they were willing to trade him?
I don't know, man.
I don't think that's it, but it's a possibility.
I really think they just screwed. Like, I think it was like literally they thought they were going to get more money. They tried to play hardball with the Avs. The Avs said, no, we're not paying you $14 million. We're going to trade you. And they did. And then Carolina said, hey, we'll give you, a franchise record offer. There's been conflicting reports on how much that was. I've heard everything from 12.5 to 13.5. I tend to believe Kevin Weeks. He said it was north of 13. So my assumption is like 13 and a quarter. They thought that they could go where they wanted to go and still get the same amount. And that wasn't the case. I think he really wanted to go to Dallas. I think that was one of his preferred destinations, obviously, because he took a pay cut to go there. And they tried to play hardball today because there was we heard there was the contract offer, and then there was reports back and forth. Oh, they're not talking anymore. Dallas is not budging. Then it was, they're negotiating again. And then all of a sudden it was done. And I think they realized, well, if we want to go to Dallas, it's going to be 12. And they ran out of time. So, and I don't think they wanted to go to free agency. I think they wanted the 8th year. And so it came down to either Dallas or Carolina, either 13.25 in Carolina or 12 in Dallas. And that's what they took. I don't know why I just went through that, but I did. Sorry. J-Dub, he says, I think he was shocked by the trade and he wanted effing revenge. Oh, on Colorado?
He could have had it here, but, I mean...
Not as
whatever.
much as he will get in Dallas if he really wanted revenge on Colorado.
Yeah, he's going to get revenge here in like, what, a month and...
Some change, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that could be the first round matchup in the West.
Not to mention they play each other 3 to 4 times a season anyway.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's true.
Caleb Herrera says Rantanen really screwed us over because his trade took so long we couldn't flip the assets we got. Yeah, I heard Tulsky say that. I don't know, whatever. If you flip them, look, I'll just say this real quick because I believe it. I was really hoping that we would flip, a couple picks for Brock Besser. Or there was that rumor that Ricard Raquel was possibly coming back there at the very end. And I got really excited for a minute, but I'm almost glad that we're going to the off season with a ton of draft capital. And the off season, they can go out and get exactly who it is they want because they have the money to do it. Right now, there's like no cap space. And the only way they could have, executed a trade for like a Brock Besser or a Ricard Raquel or someone of the like is to move someone else out as well. Because if after you dump the Rantanen cap and you bring in Stankoven, you're looking at like what, $3.8 million of cap space, which is not enough for either of those guys. So you would have had to send someone else out too. It probably would have been a KK or a Roslovic or I don't know it. I don't even know if anybody would take an Orlov around the NHL these days. But, people are like, trade Orlov. Well, I don't even know if anybody wants Orlov. So it's a hard cap hit to dump, and you probably can't dump the whole thing. You probably have to retain 50% to trade Orlov. But anyway, you would have had to send somebody else out. And I don't think the organization was ready to send another player out, not necessarily for hockey purposes, more for culture purposes, the room, right? They've already sent out Drury and Natchez. Okay. Now imagine if they would have sent KK out like today, out of nowhere to dump some cap. Right. Yeah. As fans were like, oh, well, KK doesn't score. He has a purpose on this team, but
guilty.
Yeah, you are.
We know. But just think of what that does to the room, though. And now they've gone through it twice in 6 weeks. So I'm kind of glad. And if I'm being honest, this team was against Utah when Rantanen was not in the lineup.
Same with the Bruins. We scored 8.
Well, I'm saying since he's been here.
Oh yeah.
In the 13 games, look, I think we've been a better team recently without him. It's not like he's been contributing night in, night out. It's not like he plays defense like great. So really, what are we losing? Production wise?
You bring up a really good point there because we brought the guy in to score and he wasn't doing it. And then, I think we learned a couple of other things. One of the biggest things that came from this, it doesn't look large right now, but one of the biggest things that came from this whole ordeal, now we know Seth Jarvis can play left wing really well.
Yes.
So where Rantanen was, I think you can put Svechnikov there, and he'll finally find that other gear because he's much better on the right than he is on the left. We saw that when Teravainen was here, and it was him, Aho, and Svechnikov. So I'm hoping now at least we'll put Svechnikov on the right wing and let him play the game that in the way that he plays it the best. Because if Rantanen got a shot there, Svechnikov should definitely get an extended look on the right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we're a worse team today than we were yesterday. I mean, maybe like on paper, but if you take into account how they were playing, look, the team can go back to playing loose again. And by loose, I mean loose, like just go out and play. Quit trying to force something that's not there just so you can re-sign Mikko Rantanen.
Aho's going to start putting up points again now, like a lot, because he was putting an emphasis on trying to get it to Rantanen in situations where he was passes. Like they all were, but he was really guilty of it. Whereas now Aho's going to just play normal Aho, and he's probably angry right now. He's probably got another gear going. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to play.
It's about to be a big March, man. I'm telling you. And we're home like most of the month. Dude, look. All right, let me keep going through these comments. I'm not going to go through them all. I'm just going to pick ones out that are Katie Bartlett. She says, yeah, I do too. She says the Avs fans are quite displeased. In the end, Mikko made his own bed. He had plum opportunities in Colorado and Carolina, but burned those bridges. I'm beyond aggravated. Yeah, look, not in a weird way, but I've thought about you several times throughout today, with this stuff, like just because of your unique position, being a fan of both teams, and Mikko goes to the Canes and Nate just goes and Drury goes to the Avs, and it's just win-win. And now he's in Dallas and he's going to try to beat the Avs in the playoffs. So
natural disaster friends unite.
Yeah.
Yep.
Caleb, Brandyn really destroyed his reputation in 2 cities in just one day. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see what else. We're almost. J-Man says Jankowski has pretty solid defensive stats, so he would probably fit in the bottom 6 somewhere. Yeah, we haven't talked about this yet, but it looks like one of those like post deadline trade calls happened where they got the trade in before 3:00. What's his name? Mark Jankowski.
Yes.
From Nashville to Carolina for a 5th round pick. This guy is a former 1st round pick. He was 21st overall in 2012 to the Calgary Flames. He's got an $800,000 cap hit. He's signed through the end of next year, which means that we have him this season and next. He doesn't have like crazy offensive numbers, but they're solid. He's got a decent face-off percentage over the last 2 or 3 years, above 50%. He's a left-handed shot. He's a left-handed guy, but he's 6'4", 212 pounds, listed. And this is a solid 4th line dude. Like, I don't know. It's I feel like it's kind of an underrated move for a 5th round pick for some depth. This is a guy that can, put in some good minutes on the 4th line.
I think that he's going to ultimately take Yost's spot, and they'll make him the extra forward. I'm actually looking at something real quick. Where is it?
You could put Roslovic in the center and have him center Eric Robinson and Mark Jankowski.
That works too.
That's a heck of a 4th line. Unless you want to. Of course, we don't know who's going to bump up into the top 6 now that Rantanen is gone. And then we don't know exactly where Stankoven's going to play. My assumption is he might bump up into the top 6. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, the guy's coming from Nashville. He's sitting on 9 points in 41 games this year. Nashville's kind of they've had a bad year, but he's kind of one of those guys that have bounced around between the American League and the National. Just one of those depth guys, one of those 13th forwards that you can bring up and he can play some NHL minutes. But I think it's a decent signing for a fifth, or a trade. Sorry. All right. So to quickly touch on Logan Stankoven. I know a lot of us get so hung up in the fact that we just traded Mikko Rantanen away. I'm not going to be able to get, so just real quick, I'm not going to be able to get all these comments. There's a ton of them. Before we move on, let me see.
A lot of interaction in the chat, which I love.
Yeah, a ton. All Canes Network says Stankoven being good friends with Jarvis will make the locker room very fun to watch.
Yeah.
I think they played in Portland together, if I remember correctly.
I believe that's right.
WHL.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, I can't get to all these tonight, but I'm glad you guys are talking amongst yourselves. But anyway, Stankoven. When I think of Logan Stankoven, I think of Seth Jarvis the year between his sophomore slump and his 33-goal season, which was not this past offseason, but the offseason before. That's kind of the trajectory that this guy is on. He's still technically a rookie. He's played 83 NHL games to this point. So I guess, he's over the 82 game mark. Some of those are playoff games. He played in the playoffs with the Dallas Stars last year. 19 games in those playoffs. He had 8 points and he was a +6 in the playoffs, and he was averaging 16 minutes of ice time a game. Also in the playoffs last year, he had a 54% face-off percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember, who was Dallas's opponents last year? It was Winnipeg in the first round, right? And then Edmonton in the second?
No,
Edmonton it was the Western Conference Final. They played Edmonton.
Yeah, that's right, because Edmonton played the Canucks.
Yeah.
God, who did
they played Vegas in the first round, Colorado in the second,
right.
and then they lost to
what it
Edmonton
was.
in the conference finals.
That's right. Yeah. It wasn't Winnipeg.
Because everybody was cheering for them to beat Vegas, me included.
Yeah. But that's some pretty solid numbers against those teams in the playoffs. So that makes you optimistic. And then if you look in the regular season, through 83 games, and this dates back to last season. He played 24 games last year, 59 games this season. So in that span of time, he's got 15 goals, 28 assists for 43 points. He's a +12 on a Dallas Stars team who sometimes struggle to score, kind of like the Canes do, right? So that's about a half point a game. That's why I say I see the Seth Jarvis trajectory here. And if you bring him here to Carolina, he can play this style of hockey. He's a hard forechecker. I know he's only 5'8", 160 or something, 5'7", 160 or 170 or whatever he is.
He is,
I think he's 5'7", 165.
It says 5'8", 165.
Yeah.
There you go.
Shorter guy.
But he's a dog, man. I've seen people say it all day, that cover him or scouts or whatever, just how he's going to fit in this system. And we could really see, we could see a Seth Jarvis type player because they're comparable. They really are. He's defensively responsible. He forechecks hard. Now, if you look at his player card and you hear some of the people say that he lacks finishing, I mean, I don't know, but we'll see. But
he's also still young. He's got time to learn that stuff.
Absolutely.
It's like one thing that. Here's one thing I think that him and Bradley Nadeau are going to be that similar in that regard, except opposite. Bradley Nadeau is going to show up with a scoring touch and have to learn the defensive game and learn the 200-foot game. With Stankoven, I think it's the other way around. He has the defensive aspect. He has the work ethic. He has the 200-foot game. It's finishing is what he has to learn at this level. And funny story, AB, I looked this up just to make sure I was right about this. Yumi and Jeremy actually saw Logan Stankoven's first game.
Oh,
yes,
really?
Last year.
When he played
right.
when we got 2-1 by Dallas
and we
last
saw
year.
That lady.
Four Eyes, yeah. But it's like
I remember that.
yeah, I do too. It took me a long time to stop laughing about that as we were walking out of the arena. I was like, that's about the best mood I could be in after a loss. But
God.
yeah, so the kid then even was noticeable to me in the first game because the old running joke is like, oh, this guy's making his NHL debut against Carolina. He's definitely getting a goal tonight. So he didn't score that night, but I thought he played pretty well looking back on it. But I just went back to make sure that I remembered that correctly. But yeah, that was his first NHL game. So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah. To answer Casey's question here, he says, how long does Stanky have left on his contract? And before you guys act crazy, Stanky is his legitimate nickname, by the way. I love it.
I'm just thinking about the thing you said before the recording.
Oh, that was actually Casey's tweet. And I retweeted it. It was Casey actually tweeted that. And I won't actually.
That's
I will
great.
I will repeat
Do
it. Matter of fact, let me pull it up right here.
Just go ahead and pull it up. It was funny.
Let me just. I want to read this one live here.
No, this is great.
Casey says, "Come on, where's it at?"
What you eating there, Brandon?
Oh, I'm not eating. This ain't for me. Come here, Frank.
Frankie.
Well, oh yeah, here it is. He says, can't use Stankoven's and PK's nicknames back to back. That is facts.
It's
Actually,
true.
You can though, but
I mean,
anyway.
you can.
So anyway, yeah, Casey wants to know how long does he have left on his contract. So he is currently in his second year of a 3-year entry-level contract. So that means next year, he's still under that same contract. And then at the expiration of next season, he's an RFA, which means that, I'm not insulting anybody's intelligence, but for those that don't know, we control his rights, which means as long as we offer him a qualifying offer, which would be, where's it at? $840,000, then we control his rights. And now, maybe we qualify him or maybe we go ahead and sign him to a long-term contract, kind of like we did with Seth Jarvis.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 1 year and then we control his rights. So that's the answer to that question. Yeah, AB, anything to say to add on Stankoven before we move on and get ready to get up out of here?
The finishing is definitely the question mark, but I think he'll have a better opportunity here because I think, yes, the system is similar with Dallas, but I think Rod's going to like Stankoven and the way he plays, and I think he's going to thrive here. So I'm excited, and we have him for another year in, like you said, RFA. So I could see him being here long term. So yeah.
And I mean, I was a little underwhelmed, I guess, or whatever when we found out the return. But the more I've thought about it, the more I've watched him. I I can't wait to watch him play Sunday. Like
Mhm.
I really think this is going to be an instant impact. Like I think you could see him come in Sunday. Well, maybe not Sunday since his first game, but this coming week, I think you could see him start to really make an impact. Unlike that we saw from the last guy. So look, we're getting younger. We've got Orlov, Burns coming off the books. I mean, assuming
Hopefully.
next off season, Freddie. Well, I mean, I tweeted this out kind of joking the other day, but I mean, if we're really being honest, Freddie might be the best available goalie on the market this offseason.
We don't have
Which is
many
not-
options. The
We
goalie
don't.
market is so dry.
It is.
It's like that's one of my disappointments about today. I'm not saying Ottinger by any means, but shipping Rantanen somewhere to bring a goalie back would have been something I would have been like, okay, cool. I hate that we didn't get Wyatt Johnston or Jason Robertson as someone I would have liked to have had because he's one of my favorite non-Hurricanes. He's one of the best offensively minded two-way wingers in the league.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that really, really sucks today is that we didn't get one of those guys.
Mhm.
Because honestly, like this went from looking like trying to mitigate a disaster and damage control to not the worst situation that we thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the goalie situation is going to be rough this offseason. I mean, we've been hoping for Vejmelka all along. He resigned. I think Aiden Hill's still technically a pending UFA.
Vegas will jump on that immediately.
Yeah, I believe Vegas will get that taken care of. Because I mean, who are they going to bring in if they let Aiden Hill walk? Like, who's let? I mean, they go sign Freddie? Like, I don't know.
No, they got rid of Logan Thompson.
Yeah, and I just don't know. I mean, they can always go out and make a trade though. They've got the ability to do that. So anyway,
yeah, if we're gonna get a goalie, we're gonna have to make a trade for one. We're not gonna get one in free agency.
Exactly.
But that's a song for another time. But I just want to try to calm some nerves here. And I know people get on me all the time for being this dude right here, like, because there are times that I freak out, and it's usually in the moment, but then a lot of times I'll step back and I'll try to think about what is really happening, and then I'll kind of talk myself into a calmness in a way, and then I'll tweet it out, and that's what I did today.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really think I overreacted to the rant and stuff today. But
no, I saw your text at 12:30 last night.
I was freaking out last night. Yeah, but it's because nobody was because y'all were sleeping, and I didn't have anybody to like vent to because my wife's
kind of
on
yelling.
a rare occasion on Thursday, I was like active in the chat for the first time in months, and I was like, "Where is everybody?"
It's hit or miss. But me and Sam Wallace were talking amongst ourselves in the group chat last night. But anyway, look, today sucked. It really did. Just like we've talked about, we thought we had we thought we had a superstar, game breaker, franchise player, and it didn't work out, and it sucks. But if we try to big picture it here and we try to like look at it from a high level, we're the same team as, I would still argue that we're the same team as we were 6 weeks ago before we made the trade. Look, Necas had a great start. Necas is playing great in Colorado. But the fact is, and this is really like this is really not like a hot take or an opinion. This is just fact. Like, he wasn't producing at a high level when we traded him. I mean, he went I think it was at one point he went 19 games without a goal this year.
Who? Rantanen?
Necas.
Oh, Necas? Yeah.
Because like Necas had a 40-point start and then he just fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
And when we traded him, he had 50.
Yeah.
It's just he was just never going to fit here long term. And I like Necas a lot. And if you ask me, like, as far as people who have played for this team with God-given talent, he is number one. He is like, I legitimately believe he is the most talented player that ever stepped in Carolina, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good fit. No, yes, like as far as like you go out there and play hockey, he is the best player that has ever stepped on the ice for Carolina.
Who? Natchez?
In terms of raw talent, yes.
Yeah, I agree. But look, he can be like he can not fit on this team or in this offense, but that doesn't mean that the team and the system and the offense or whatever is no good.
Mm.
It just means it's for a different type of player. And you know, he played well here, especially this season, man. The beginning of the season, he played really well. And like I said, I love the guy. But he's a better fit in Colorado. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying about it was like he's got all the raw talent in the world, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, you're going to fit on any team.
Right.
Like there are players like that. Like if Jacob Slavin magically ended up on another team tomorrow, he would automatically make it better no matter which one it is.
Right.
Natchez is not one of those guys, though.
Right. But I think but look, people forget that we also brought Taylor Hall in, who is, this dude is he is noticeable every shift. Yes, and the scoring is going to come. He plays so good in this system.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's going to continue getting better. And, you know, you bring in Stankoven, who I think is going to be, you know, similar to Taylor Hall. He's just going to fit. And he's going to make a difference. I don't care what his finishing percentage is. I don't care what his stats are in Dallas. Like, I think it's going to be an immediate impact. And I really believe we are a better team today than we were yesterday. I really believe that. Not because Mikko Rantanen is not a good player or a superstar or whatever. That is all true. But it wasn't working here for whatever reason. You can call it he didn't want to be here. You can call it the system. You can call it he was riding the coattails of McCarr and McKinnon. Like whatever your excuse is, the fact is he wasn't. The 13 games that he was here, just they didn't work out.
And one other comment in here. Rumors say Taylor Hall might extend here as well. He already said that he wants to stay. If it's a 3x3-ish type of deal, I'd make that deal 10 times out of 10 immediately. Because Taylor Hall's best game with us, he didn't even record a point. The game in Detroit, he was our best player far and away that night. Yeah,
Andy Strickland keeps reporting that, and Andy Strickland and Taylor Hall are like pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
he's
Taylor
going to stay.
Yeah, Taylor Hall is on that podcast all the time.
Oh, is he?
But,
Oh, is he? I didn't
yeah,
know
he
that.
was on the, what is it? The Stricken. What's the other guy? Is it Andy? What did I call him? What's his name?
Andy Strickland. And I forget his co-host name, and I know what show you're talking about.
Stricken. Anyway, yeah, Taylor Hall has been on that podcast a few times. He was on there when he got traded here, but yeah, Strickland keeps reporting that the deal's close. It just hadn't been done. I'm assuming they were waiting to get through the trade deadline.
Yeah,
and then but I expect a Taylor Hall contract. I expect an Eric Robinson contract to get done fairly quickly here.
Speaking of Eric Robinson, those of you slandering him, knock it off.
Yeah.
That guy has played incredible for us to the point where we're getting a notarized letter together to apologize because we thought he was going to be in the AHL this year.
Yeah,
I was one of them.
Yeah, me too.
We all were.
There was not a single soul on this earth that I think thought Eric Robinson was going to become a mainstay in our bottom six that was playing up the lineup at times.
Dude, I was putting Brendan Lemieux in my roster projections over him.
Like, so was I. Kane's legend.
Yeah, like Robinson is perfect for this, and he chips in an above average amount of offense, honestly. If you're talking about a depth player, I think he's got 25 points now. Like, he's already exceeded his career highs, I think, in terms of production.
He was great on that KK line with Natchez too.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that wasn't because he was like merchanting off of them. Like, he legitimately was playing well with them. He's one of those guys that he kind of reminds me of Jesper Faust in that regard. You can bump him up and down the lineup as you need him.
Oh wow!
Oh wow! Yeah, there you go.
That
yeah,
Brandyn, are you sure you have an alternate Twitter account?
If I do, I'm using it on my watch because my phone's over yonder. But it's like he reminds me of him in that regard of like if you need to move him up higher or move him down the depth chart, you can slot him in just about anywhere, and he helps out that line. If you need him to just go out there and hit people, forecheck, and play good defense, he can do that. You need to move him up the lineup so he can create some chances. He does that too. So I'm really happy with him. I would give him a Carrier style contract right now.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Carrier, we're hoping he's back soon.
Please.
I saw something about him being back on day one of the playoffs. So you can take the player out of Vegas, but you can't take the Vegas out of the player, I guess.
Whatever.
Max, wish you all the best.
But yeah, I think, look, I think that we're, you know, I think we're going to finish in second place in the Metro.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then another thing, like, yes, the Jack Hughes injury, and all that happened for Jersey.
Yeah.
We also found out today that Dougie Hamilton is out for a, quote, extended period of time. And then also Jonas Siegenthaler is ruled out for the rest of the regular season at least.
They've lost everybody, dude.
What happened with Dougie?
He got hurt in that last game, and he's now they considered him week to week at first, but today they said extended period of time. But let me get through this real quick, and then I want to throw some lines, some what we think these lines might look like, and then we'll get out of here.
I want to write one down while you're doing that.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. So if you hear me typing, my bad.
Mute yourself, fool. I'm just kidding. But look,
too late.
Just to kind of finish what I was going on there. I don't think that our ceiling is any lower. Maybe it is. I mean, maybe the postseason, assuming that Rantanen would kind of catch fire and if he was still here through the playoffs and play well. But, based on what we saw in those 13 games, I don't know if I don't believe that our ceiling is any lower today than it was yesterday. And look, if we just look at this season, there's a clear path through the Metro into the Eastern Conference Final. New Jersey, who is currently our first round matchup, is decimated through injuries. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that is a fact. And if we play them in the first round, we are a significantly better team than they are. And I thought that we could beat them. I thought we matched up well with them, even if they were at full strength with their entire roster. I just think that we play a better game and a heavier game. And I just think that our game translates to playoffs more than the Devils do. And, if now we're looking at them and they might not even be a playoff team if Columbus and Detroit and, who these other teams that are fighting for wild card spots continue their trajectory. Our first round matchup might be the New York Rangers, or it could be the Columbus Blue Jackets, or who knows. But I like our chances against any of those teams in the first round. Then, if it's Washington, if they get to the second round, I still like that matchup. And who's to say that Washington gets out of the first round? I mean, they could get caught by a surging wild card team. Happens all the time. It happened to the Bruins.
It happened to them before.
It happened to the Bruins. It happened, back in
I have never let them live that down either.
That's
up
right.
Here.
That's right.
Oh, we're going to sweep you. Oh, they only lost one at home because they wanted to win it in game 5. Oh, you lost game 5, 6-0. You're cooked. It was the ref's fault. It never should have went to overtime in game 7. Fogel hurt Oshie. Blah. I heard all that. No. You got outworked.
It happened to the Bruins. They were they broke the record for the most points in the season. They lost in the first round.
Laughing
to the
so
Panthers.
Hard. Yeah, and the overtime winner.
It happens all the time. So, and again, even if they do win the first round, I believe I like that matchup better than any of the teams coming out of the Atlantic. I would rather play the Capitals than the Panthers, the Lightning, the Maple Leafs in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
And then, once you get to the Eastern Conference Final, all bets are off. Who knows? I don't believe we're the favorite. I believe Florida's the favorite today.
Yep.
But Tampa's going to be good too. The Leafs are going to be good too. But only one of those are going to come out of that division. So, you just never know. But anyway, the path is there. And, even if it doesn't work out, this year, you got a ton of money to spend. You're one of the best teams with the most amount of money this offseason to entice players here. And then you've got your coveted coveted prospect in Alexander Nikishin, who is, we got an update today from Tulski that, everything is still setting up for him to come here, and be on the roster next year. You've got Bradley Nadeau scoring in the masses in the minors right now. You've got Scott Morrow, who's having a great year in the minors. These guys are all probably going to have a spot here next year. And, you signed a great young RFA today or traded for one in Logan Stankoven. Your core is signed for years to come. And I just believe the future is bright. So yes, it sucks today, but tomorrow, if you look forward to this team and all the opportunity ahead, there are better days coming. So if you're down today, don't be down for too long. Go on and get back up. And yeah, that's all I got.
And if we start playing better right after this, then it's a sign that everything was just kind of thrown off with Rantanen here. I think they're going to really get back to playing their game now. And that's not a knock on Rantanen or anything. It's just he came in there and the chemistry kind of got upset after that. Yep. And now that variable is out. Also, since we're going to talk about lines in a minute, I actually drew up a couple of power play lines real quick as well. Okay. With Rantanen being out, and I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on that too.
All right, so Dylan's the reason I thought of this was Dylan came on and said, "What would you have the lines be come Sunday?" So we're going to do that, and that's going to be the last thing we do tonight, and we'll get out of here. So I will let you guys go at it.
You go ahead, AB.
So I only did the forward lines. So I have Jarvis, Aho, and Svetch, Hall, Yost, and Blake, Martinook, Stahl, and Stankoven, Robinson, KK, and Roslovic.
That went really fast.
It did.
Do I need to slow it down?
Yes.
A little bit.
All right. So the lines, Jarvis, Aho, and Svechnikov, Hall, Yost, and Blake, Martinook, Stahl, Stankoven, Robinson, KK, and Roslovic.
Brandon?
Mine are completely different. I have, minus the first line, I have Jarvis, Aho, Svechnikov, emphasis on Jarvis being on the left and Svechnikov being on the right. Hall, KK, Blake, Martinook, Jordo, Stankoven, with / Carrier there, because once he comes back in the lineup, that's where I'd like for him to go. And then E-Rob, Jankowski, Roslovic with Yost as the healthy extra.
I forgot about Jankowski. Whoops. My bad.
Well, he's been here for 5 minutes. Don't feel bad.
We had pretty much the same exact lines.
No, we didn't.
Except for Janikowski's. Reachers again?
No, you had Jost up on the second line with Hall and Blake, AB.
Yeah, I had Jost in the press box.
Yeah, I forgot about Janikowski. That was on me.
So yours, Brandon, what you came up with is exactly what I had.
Are you kidding?
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Svetch, Aho, Jarvis, with the emphasis of Jarvis on the right. Hall
on the left
KK,
or right?
With Svechnikov on the right. Hall, KK, and Blake. Martinook, Stahl, Stankoven, and Carrier again when he comes back. And then once Carrier comes back, then you would move Stankoven down to the fourth line with. Well, anyway, I got the fourth line is Robinson, Roslovic playing center, and Jankowski, and then Jost playing as the extra. And then when Carrier comes back, you would, man, what are you going to do then? Oh yeah, you would scratch.
Yeah, Jankowski.
I mean, assuming that
he's back.
Assuming that he's back, and assuming that Stankoven is which I expect him to be great. So
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Then you got a little bit of depth, and yeah, I think that's it. And then the defensive pairs are going to stay the same.
Yeah, no reason to change those. I think those are fine. If I can read out these power play units real quick.
Yes,
though.
please.
Okay. So for the first one, I have with Rantanen gone, I decided to put Taylor Hall up there. Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov, and Ghost. And for the second unit, here's where I have a little bit of a dilemma of one of the 5 guys, but I have Blake, KK, Roslovic. And I was thinking maybe you could try Stankoven out there. Or you could give Burns and Walker another look. I want to see Sean Walker on power play too. And that's nothing against Burns. It's just I'm really impressed with Walker's ability, his skating ability, his ability to walk the blue line, and his vision. He wouldn't be as heavy of a shooter as Burns, but as far as his ability to distribute the puck, I think that I really want to give Sean Walker a look on the power play in some capacity or another. If nothing else, you can bump Svetch down to PP2 and then just have Ghost and Walker work the power play together. I know that's kind of unconventional by today's standards, but it couldn't hurt. Those guys generate a ton of offense 5-on-5. Ghost and Walker do. If you have them on the power play together, they could potentially work some magic and breathe some life back into it, because God knows what we're doing right now is not working.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I did read something today that Logan Stankoven was very good at zone entry.
Ooh.
I did read that today, which is why I would argue to put him on the top unit instead of Taylor Hall.
Okay.
And let him, and that's, I mean, don't get me wrong, I totally agree with your assessment. Taylor Hall is great, whatever. But just because we have such a hard time entering the zone, on the power play, if he is really as good as I read today on his zone entry skills, put him there just for that reason.
Yeah,
that sounds good, because we haven't had a real entry machine since Natchez.
No,
and there would be times where he would do it great for several games in a row, and then he'd fall off a cliff again and he'd cough it up at the blue line, and next thing you know, it's going back the other way. And he did it at the most vulnerable and worst possible moments on many occasions.
Yep. And I hate playing the forecheck game on the power play.
Yeah, that's counterproductive.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, well, that's all I got. I think I'm done. I'll be in the building Sunday for the Canes versus the Jets. We'll likely see Stankoven's first game as a Hurricane. I'm looking forward to it. They'll be practicing tomorrow morning. They'll practice, so we'll get kind of a look at what Rod's thinking about line combination wise. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to hear Stankoven talk to the media.
Yeah.
I did see today that Seth Jarvis called him today right after the news broke, and talked to him about it. So it's a little bit to look forward to, and that's what I'm gonna focus on. So
yeah, and depth wise, I really think we got better. If we're talking about the overall roster construction, even with losing Rantanen, I think we made a more well-rounded roster with these moves, with guys that we can use right now.
Agree. All right. Any last thoughts, AB, before we get out of here?
I'm ready to go to bed. I'm very tired.
Yeah, I'm going to go to bed and see if I can get these allergies to calm down. But, gentlemen, I had a whole lot of fun tonight. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for hanging in there with us. And thanks to – I'm on the wrong side again. Thanks to my boy up here, Stormy, for hanging out tonight. I think I might keep him around from now on. So
let's see if we win on Sunday.
That's true. So, all right, y'all. Well, everybody listening, if I forgot to cover this in the beginning, but please give the stream a thumbs up. Thanks for all the comments, the interaction. For the most part, our following. I enjoy all you guys. I enjoy interacting with all you guys. But man, some of these people on X, like I said, I could just throw a punch. But they're usually not people that follow us, follow the pod and all that. They're people that just want to come in and troll. But anyway, that's all I got. I'm Griff for Brandon. AB, take us out, buddy.
Well, thank you so much for listening and watching session 73 of CaniacSessions. Just like Griff said, If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead, click the like button, leave a comment, let us know what you like, what you didn't like, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything that we put out. It means a lot to us, and it'll mean a lot to you because you're making a really good investment watching us. So you can follow us on social media platforms, X, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and TikTok at CaniacSessions. And if you want to keep up with Brandyn, you can follow him on X at The Warning Take and his YouTube channel. Do the same thing. Subscribe, like, comment, turn on the notifications bell. And if you want to keep up with Griff personally on X, you can follow him at M_Griff10. And if you want to keep up with me personally on X, you can follow me at AB Caniac Session. Thank you so much for listening and watching session 73, and we will see you in session 74.
Bye.